Hi, I'm Mal, and this is Miniature Warriors. A belated season's greetings, and welcome back to the channel. Today's game sees us pushing on with our 1865 Longstreet games, and we are getting very close to the end of the campaign. We're marching through North Carolina in March 1865. I have 6 players, 3 aside, and the game is an interesting one. Enjoy.
After Confederate General Hardee delayed Union General William Sherman's Carolinas campaign at the Battle at Averasboro, Union forces marched on to Goldsboro for supplies. Meanwhile, General Joe Johnston maneuvered his men into what would be the Southern Confederacy's final hurrah. The Battle of Bentonville lasted from March 19 to 21, 1865, 2.5 weeks before General Lee surrendered at Appomattox and 3.5 weeks before Johnston surrendered at Bennett Place. Union commanders were surprised at Bentonville. Throughout the campaign, Johnston had been cautious and acted on the defensive. At Bentonville, he displayed an uncharacteristic boldness. On March 18, Hampton's cavalry maneuvers distracted Union commanders, who underestimated the size of the Confederate force as a trap was being laid for them. Today's game sees us fighting the initial ambush of General Sherman's Western Column, on March 19, 1865. The Federal force consists of the 3 divisions of Hislop's Provisional Corps. Isolated, the Federals must hold the field. Opposing this is 3 rebel divisions under Brigadier Kim. As we come upon the field, we see Hislop's Provisional Corps, advancing with 2 divisions forward and 1 back. We are looking eastwards, and the Goldsboro Road cuts through the center of the battlefield. The Harper House stands to the north of the road, and we can see the rebel battle line forming just a little further to the east. On the rebel side of the field, Johnston's division is deployed on the left, and to its north, Heath's division completes the southern battle line. Brigadier General Kim's division has been sent on a flank march around the Yankee left, and its approach will come through the light woods off in that direction. Anchoring the Union left are the 7th and 8th United States Colored Infantry Regiments of Brigadier Parrott's division. Brigadier Hislop positions his headquarters centrally on the Goldsboro Road, and as his batteries commenced carronading, orders the advance. Seeing the opportunity to tear into the lead elements of the Yankee Corps to their front, and after months of withdrawing time and time again, the rebels patiently waited. Beauregard Johnston's regiments massed on either side of his division's Grand Battery and watched on as shell after shell screamed toward the massed blue-coated enemy infantry. As the rebel preliminary bombardment continued, the Yankees of Hislop's division advanced towards the Harper's Field, doubling forward for the protection to be offered by the split rail fencing. Just as this was occurring, on the extreme Union left, Brigadier Kim's rebel division smashed into the flank of the exposed left flank Yankee brigade. Initially the colored regiments held, but with their flank turned they fell back through a small clump of woods that had marked the end of the Union line. At the southern end of the line, the 2 opposing battle lines continued to close, supported by their divisional batteries. Just as the lead Yankee regiments were reaching the protection of the split rail fence, a rebel shell found its mark in the center of Brigadier Hislop's headquarters, and a piece of shrapnel carried the unfortunate general out of the saddle. He fell wounded, the 3rd time since the Battle of Bull Run. With the temporary confusion pausing the bluecoat advance, the rebels surged forward into the Harper's Field. Heath's divisional cavalry even threatened a charge, which did not materialize as the regimental commander thought twice about assaulting the formed Federalists lining the fence to his front. Massed long-range musket volleying now erupted on this part of the field, and the casualties started to mount. A small, wooded knoll on the Union left, later to be called the Bloody Knoll, quickly became the focal point of a desperate struggle. Brigadier Kim's Graybacks smashed into the exposed Yankee flank, driving it backwards in some confusion, towards the Federal center. The Yankees only rallying when they cleared the trees. Parrott in response, ordered his flanking brigade to wheel to their left in an attempt to stem the rebel onslaught. To the southwest of the field, Brigadier James Moore Brooks' Federal Division, the 3rd of Hislop's Corps, was still on the Goldsboro Road. Hearing the din of the rebel assault tearing into the Yankee left flank, Brooks orders his troops to form line of battle and then march to the sounds of the guns. With the 55th New York in the van, Hoffman's brigade, Brooks' senior brigade commander crashed into the right flank of the rebels who had just cleared the Bloody Knoll. This small section of the battlefield, covered in its light woods, had now drawn into the contest the better part of 2 Yankee divisions, attempting to stem the momentum of Brigadier Kim's flanking assault. The exchange quickly became a maelstrom of close-quarter hand-to-hand combats, as both sides attempted to drive the enemy back. Although the timely arrival of Brooks' division on the flank of the rebels had stabilized the Union left flank, the critical point of the battle now shifted towards the center of the opposed battle lines, where the Confederates had massed 2 divisions, facing the single division, Hislop's blue-coated veterans. Brigadier Heath now sent his regiments forward, further into the Harper Field, advancing and firing in Indian rushes. A continuous wall of mini-balls slammed into the Yankees, a fusillade that the Federals struggled to return. Beauregard Johnston's rebels on Heath's left surged forward as well, keeping their left anchored on some swampy ground. A chilling rebel yell, the last these men would raise during this war, slowly rose from the Southern ranks as yard after yard of the intervening ground was crossed. At this critical point, with the Confederates massing against the Union center and needing to relieve the pressure off Hislop's division, Brooks' command needed to tear into the rebel right and draw the Southern troops away from the beleaguered Union center. But a Confederate sharpshooter, history has lost his name, drew his bead, squeezed his trigger, and brought down Brigadier Brooks, who, unhorsed, crashed to the ground amongst the trees on Bloody Knoll. The ball had smashed into his left knee, and although he would survive the wound, his command went into confusion and all forward momentum was lost. In the center, Heath and Johnston's division swept forward. A silver-shimmering wall of advancing bayonet-tipped muskets. Supported by artillery, firing round after round into the exposed Yankees, the rebel infantry stormed forward. Approaching the split-rail fence, the Federal batteries belched canister, carrying away many brave rebels. The Southern infantry paused, dressed their ranks, and then with a thunderous ear-splitting rebel yell, charged the remaining yards to the fence. A desperate, brutal contest ensued. The 2 sides only divided by the railings of the fence. Rifled musket butts, swung as clubs, arched through the air visible through the smoke. The din of battle was punctuated by the occasional boom of the smooth-bore Napoleons, throwing both shot and shell into the packed ranks of both sides, adding their weight to the destruction being wrought in the center of the battle. Slowly the rebel infantry were gaining the advantage, driving the bluecoats back from the protection of the fence. Having been driven back from the fence as his battle line buckled backwards, and his only reserve committed to shoring up his left flank, Brigadier Hislop found his corps in a desperate situation. After his years of combat, he could well sense the signs that his troops were quickly approaching breakpoint. And then it happened. Federal soldiers, singly at first, but then in greater numbers, begun streaming to the rear. Then whole units. Brigadier Hislop turned the head of his horse and rode the rear. The battle had been lost. Post-battle, both Brigadiers Perrott and Heath were promoted by their respective governments. The confirmation of Heath's promotion was one of the very last acts of the rebel Congress, as the situation in Virginia became more and more dire.
And what a game! Confederate victory, Union defeat, 19 March 1865. Critical point, I think, was the wounding of Brigadier James Moore Brooke on the left flank and the sucking in of his division into that engagement. Anyway, what do we have left? We have one game for 1865 for the campaign that will actually determine who wins the campaign. The epic points are that close. So anyway, I'll see you again.